Very exciting post here because we're going to have drastic improvements to key pieces of gear that we all are struggling to get a lot. 13s and 14s. Join with me, Random X. Are you pretty excited about this post?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of information here, and some surprises too.
Yeah, so there is some talk here about what's going to come out with 16s and the teal gear, and probably some people won't care, but I think there's some really, really positive things for the releasing up of some of the artificial scarcity on 13s and 14s towards the end of the post. But let's read it because it's kind of a confusing blog post, like when you just read it at a glance, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of information to unpack.
Yeah. All right. The next phase of gear progression is in the form of teal augmented gear. That's right. Gear tier 16 is the money colored gear. Teal gear arrives with our upcoming version of 5.7 release, which is currently slated for September 29th. And they haven't said that anywhere before. So they're saying patch day is going to be on Wednesday. Oh boy. We'll be master beta testing that on Wednesday on Twitch for sure. And then
my calendar.
Yeah, I know, right? Our previous gear releases would imply that gear tier 16 should be another level of orange gear. Yeah, so they kind of changed it up a lot. They changed the color. They didn't give it the extra ring, and it doesn't look like it's there. I mean, the way you're reading this, is there going to be any orange gear required in upgrading characters to gear tier 16 once you're past 15? Is that your way of understanding this?
It doesn't look like it because they're talking about streamlining it, and so we'll get to that as we unpack the next part here. It doesn't look like they're going to have it because they want people to kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. Okay, but we have something else in mind. As we mentioned in our 2021 preview blog, we're going straight to teal augmented gear in order to reduce the overall cost of orange gear and generally make it more accessible. Although that means to me they're just going to make the teal super scarce. Acquiring teal gear. Now, they've said that the primary source is going to be the Doom 2 raid. So they say that at launch, you'll be able to earn teal gear, the Doom 2 raid primary source in the supply store, the war store, as well as events milestones and various offers. So that seems to be interesting. They said in the other post the other day, though, that there was going to be some unique pieces that weren't going to be in the Doom Raid orbs. They were going to be in the supply stores only. Is that the way you understood it?
So if you look down, they're going to specify that in a second.
Okay.
Basically, there's some in the war store and some in the gold store, and those are the unique pieces. But everything else is acquirable through the orbs.
Okay. As well as event milestones, various Doom 2 will reward teal gear raid orbs via the raid completion rewards. This orb rewards all teal gear types, excluding mini uniques. Get ready to smash the refresh button, right?
Spend your cores.
Yeah, and then the new event for the Weapon X Wolverine is gonna reward you for spending cores. Coincidence? I think not, right?
Yeah, well, they tend to double down on what they want us to do.
Yeah, this orb requires all D types, excluding. So we gotta keep this in mind, excluding mini uniques. So you want to start coordinating with your alliances so you can dive into Doom 2 as soon as you're ready. For commanders level 80, the supply store and the war store, we each have one row located at the top of each store dedicated to teal gear. So there's going to be a new row just for teal gear on both stores. Augmented basic catalysts will have a dedicated store slot, which is the new ABCs. But what are we going to call them? The TBCs? The teal basic catalysts? I don't know what to call them, right? Because we already call it. Yeah.
TBC sounds perfect, by the way. That's the best.
Yeah, I think TBCs. I think that's what I'm going to call them, is the teal basic catalyst, TBCs. All right. The remaining catalyst parts, orange gear uniques, and gear tier mini 16 uniques will appear in the remaining shared slot. So that means that it's going to be random, and it's probably not going to be there every time because we're all going to be scrambling for these mini uniques. So I expect this to be a lot like DD4, where you knew people that were spending hundreds of dollars refreshing the store every day, right?
I knew people that were capping it every day, but they gave us the resources, so we actually knew how often it appeared in that. We'll probably do something similar where we collect data, so we know exactly what the expected rates are to see them in the stores.
I just want to state this right now. I have zero expectation that getting into DD5 will be easy or cheap. And it'll be definitely a few that are going to get in early it's going to be painful, right? I mean, it should be, right? It's always been that way. It's always been super expensive for people to do that first and very quickly.
Yeah, the first 20 are probably going to spend a lot of hard-earned cash and time getting their way in there, and then the rest, the top 100 are probably going to be like that middle of the pack. But I think I based on this, it feels like at least we know what to expect and how to get it, and I think
Okay.
that was missing from previous gear.
Teal Teal gear tree. Now you read this a little differently than I did, which is kind of
Mhm.
nice. The teal gear tier will also have slightly streamlined structure to make it easier to track which pieces you'll need in the future. Unique gear won't require basic catalysts. You only need 400 TBCs. That's what I'm going to call them. 200 to craft each piece of gear that requires basic catalyst for gear tier 16 per character. For comparison, reaching gear tier 15 required an average of 1,000 SBCs. But that number is, they could have made that number 10,000. They could have made that number a million. I mean, it's whatever they give us, right? It's just a ratio.
Well, again, it depends on what the orbs drop. If it's dropping
Yeah. I
the
mean,
same as the orange gear, I mean, it could drop like one every 5 orbs, and
yeah.
it doesn't make a difference. We're at the same point.
Yeah,
I will.
or it could be 15 pieces, like it is for certain things. Like if it's like if we think about gear tier 13s, you know, what's the difference between requiring 2,500 of something versus 60 of something? The rate, the amount that they give us is what matters, right? Not the number itself.
Yeah. Well, I think this is it really because the next part kind of says, in the previous iterations, they had kind of an arbitrary way to kind of, the power was being geared, and we saw some characters took purple and blue in the slot. And it seems like understanding that, if you're getting a character, what to get, like how many oranges or teal you're going to need, TBCs and teal gear and teal uniques,
Hmm.
you're going to need is probably going to be helpful so that you can, build a budget without having these massive spreadsheets.
Yeah, there you go. So the increase in recipe cost through orange didn't feel great, so we wanted to create a healthier arc of progression through teal. Okay, this is the part that I like a lot right here. Orange
Mhm.
gear availability updates. With the introduction of teal gear, we wanted to get even more orange gear in your hands so you can start powering up more of your roster. We're making several updates to the orange gear availability in the supply store and the war store. Kind of a big deal. In the supply store, most orange gear types except basic catalysts will appear in higher quantities. Catalysts for parts and damage, focus, health, armor, and resistance decrease cost of gold, which is cool, right? Because you could definitely waste a
Yep.
lot of gold in there. Orange origin trait gear decreased from 20K to 12K gold per item. Now, that was super scarce, and then they added the extra daily things, right, where you
Mhm.
could actually get those. Is that right? So that kind of, but that was like the super big choke point for a lot of people. And what we're talking about is here on the screen, like the superior sliced X gene, right? That was
Yep.
super hard to get, but then they relaxed it, and they're saying they're going to lower the cost on this. And then they also mention which they kind of eased this up a little bit, is what I'm trying to say. This origin trait gear. But then where I'm struggling right now is the gear tier 14 mini uniques decreased from uh, cost is nice, but actually I just need more of them. It looks like that's going to come from the war store, but this is because there's only one node of these, right? In Doom 1, 2, and 3 for each individual piece. That's where I really struggle every day is with this stuff. What do you think?
So they're definitely targeting G14 because you're going to be refreshing the shop, probably going for teal gear. That's what they kind of want you to do with your, like, at least spend some time refreshing the shop or buying it up when they appear. They kind of want you spending your resources, making sure you have these
Right.
for characters. So
So what they're this is what they're talking about with the 14s, these pieces right here. And they're going to change the quantities and the cost here in the war store, which is kind of a big deal, right?
it looks like it's going to be times 4 for 1,200 is what we calculated, right?
Okay. In the war store, certain pieces will appear in greater quantities. Gear tier 14 mini uniques will be increased from a stack of 2 to 4. So what that means is that this is going to go from these are skill pieces, right? They're going to go from
Yep.
2 to 4. And then the orange uniques are increased from a 1 to minimum of 2 and maximum of 3. So that would be like the superior Tesseract energy right here, where you can only get 1. And now they're going to say they're going to have 2 to 3. And then the superior basic catalyst parts increase from a minimum of 5 and maximum of 10 to a minimum of 10 and 20. So they're talking about the SBCs, which right here, they're going to increase the numbers on this quite a bit, which is kind of nice. Okay, but the main thing is the cost is going to drop. Reduce the price of the following gear. Orange uniques reduced from 1,000 war credits to 900 war credits. So basically, like right here, this costs 1,000. but they're going to have like 2 for 1,800 is what it's going to sound like, or 3 for 2,700, right?
Right.
And then the gear tier 14s reduced from 700 to 300. So there's going to be 4 of these available for 1,200. So between now and the patch, which is Wednesday, save your currency, right?
Spend nothing. I'd wait till Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday, all this stuff is going to go into place. And so if you've been struggling getting 13s or 14s, the war store and the supply store is going to be a source of that. Looks like this is going to be the primary source for the teal gear as well, other than the raids. I mean, that's the way it seems, right?
That and the gold store.
Yeah, the gold store, the supply store. Yeah, gold supply store. Yeah, okay. While we have made the price reduction to certain gear pieces in unit, keep in mind that the greater quantity of the bundle might give the impression the prices have increased, but the per unit cost has not been increased. Keep your eyes on future blogs, the details, events, and new opportunities to get your hands on teal gear. Until next time, good luck, Commanders. So I just want to double back on this idea of the cost, the barrier to entry to, let's say, DD3 and DD4 early, and to be the first person. Uh, I don't want to scare people, but people didn't spend thousands. They spent tens of thousands being first, right? I mean, a lot of money. Would you say
Yeah.
that's an accurate assessment? The people that
Mhm.
got through those game modes first easily spent tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and they hoarded, and what you
And they
had hoarded,
yeah.
and they had 15 times what you had hoarded, like literally, ready to go for the Wednesday to start unpacking all this gear and getting their characters up and having all this, and so that's kind of the big deal. And I know, the reward was choosing a character for the community, and that's like when Yags did that,
Right.
it was.
But
And
this time it doesn't look like there's any currency that's existing in the game that's going to impact Teal other than cores. Right?
well,
Cores and purchases
core-
and raiding with your alliance, right?
war currency. Because you're going to be able to spend that core. So a lot of people may not have the 400K that you do.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay,
So
so the hoarding of the war currency may give me an advantage, but it's still I'm
yeah.
gonna have to refresh like a mad person. I mean, it's just like
Mhm.
gold, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whether the items appear in this store or in this store is still gonna be refreshing like crazy if I want to participate in that.
But even more importantly, you're still going to have to do the raids and still, be subject to some sort of RNG to get those. So it's not like that you're going to see people maxing out teal gear on the day the patch goes live.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
No,
So
so I think for me, what it was good about this is just them 13s and 14s are problematic, and and they're relaxing those a little bit, so that's a good thing.
Well, for me, this is a big deal. This is a catch-up mechanic. This allows some equal footing. This basically means that the price to upgrade and gear characters going forward has been reduced, and a lot more of the stuff's available. Is it great and perfect? It's still gonna, you're still gonna exhaust some of the resources that maybe if you wanted to push teal, but you kind of have to make that priority. What this means is you're going to be able to start building your alliance and building in towards common goals and having a path to build your characters to start progressing into more difficult content. So I feel like they're changing that dial from like maybe 1 to 2% of people doing the top end content to maybe increasing that number to higher percentages by relieving some of these bottlenecks, right? Because this is a big deal. The orange has been such a pain point for us for so long
Yeah.
that it has felt too
The
frustrating.
13s and 14s has been going
Yeah.
on way longer than it should have been. I mean, especially with like miasmas of recently, and then we're probably. I mean, we don't know what the origin trait's going to be on Omega Red, but I'm guessing it's going to be the same one that Winter Soldier requires, the carbonadium. And who knows what they're going to do on the other two, like Lady Deathstrike and Silver. They could Silver Samurai. They could all use the same thing, right? And then we're back to like
Mhm.
13s. Like miasma's been a problem lately. Like, every good character needs miasmas lately. It seems like.
Well, and to be clear, that's most likely intentional, and it's
Yes, it's intentional. Yeah, it is intentional, right?
the idea is they kind of want us to exhaust resources and make purchases, so now they're focusing on the teal gear as a new opportunity for them to create a bottleneck, and I think that's important to understand. Is this gradual relief has been something that they've been promising, and I'm excited. I feel
Yeah.
like this is
Well,
good.
no,
I feel
no,
like this is
but
good.
but to get anything first and early in this game comes at an extreme premium. You know this, right? And
Yeah,
even backing off and waiting a month or two, the cost comes way down. Has been my experience. There's definitely, if you want something, if you want a 7 red star or seven gold star, you can't get a 7 red star.
yeah.
Yeah, if day one, the cost is astronomical as opposed to just waiting. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so much higher to get things very first, and so that's the way that I'm looking at DD5. Is just I expect it to be super pricey and something I'll get there someday. I might rush a little bit, but I'm not going to rush to the extent that other people are going to.
Yeah, and I will say this. I think the best way to look at like spending on a video game like this is early access. Is it really worth the price for early access to you? And maybe it is. Maybe you'll win a few more alliance wars. Maybe you'll win a few more arena fights. But that's something you have to decide as an individual. Is it worth the early access? Because eventually you'll catch up.
Right.
Well,
No, and I
you'll
just I know that the day one versus waiting even a month seems to cut the cost by like fivefold. Has been my experience. I mean, you can definitely do it differently. It's just what anybody wants to do. All right, I'm excited about the patch. We're gonna have a ton of stuff on patch day. We're gonna have not only Doom 2 and Teal gear, but also the expanded slots for War, which is going to be tricky depending on when the patch goes live. Whether or not we're going to be able to implement that before our war starts, right?
yeah, and to be clear, I think they said that we expect and I think we said we can communicate that we expect the Doom raid to be live when the patch goes live, right?
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. I didn't see anything
Yeah.
other than that, but yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
expecting. So
I think we can communicate that it's
okay,
Doom raid,
okay,
should be live on patch day.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, let me know. Check out Remenek's channel. Link to his channel will be in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and keep on gaming.